And we'll wrap this week with a story on Mark Zuckerberg. Well, you all know him. Zuckerberg is the CEO of Facebook and its parent company, Meta. He was once the world's third richest man. He has now slipped to the 12th position, from the 3rd to the 12th. Zuckerberg was once the face of social media revolution. Today, he has become the face of big tech's tyranny. You could say Zuck has run out of luck. This is a story about Zuckerberg's rise and decline. In July 2021, Mark Zuckerberg was touted to become the world's richest man. He was sitting on $142 billion, just third in the line to the top. But the fortune wheel turned against Zuckerberg. He lost 50% of his wealth in less than 9 months, 50%. Was it because of something he did? Or was it because of Facebook's policy? Or a combination of both? In 2010, a blockbuster biopic made Mark Zuckerberg a sensation. He was an outlier Harvard dropout. He had stolen intellectual property and compensated for it by giving the world Facebook, a medium that connected people from across the world, that helped people reconnect with childhood friends, helped them find love, find opportunities, a medium that even helped small businesses. Facebook was an instant hit, and Zuckerberg became an icon instantly. The youth that moved to Facebook from Orkut and High Five began idolizing Zuckerberg. Aspiring entrepreneurs began aping him. They were wearing the same color t-shirt every day to save time, just like Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg was a walking, talking self-help book. He personified success. He was young. He had married a college sweetheart. Together, Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan were America's most generous donors. She was a pediatrician, and Zuckerberg the face of the social media revolution, until he became the face of big tech tyranny.
But it's clear now that we didn't do enough to prevent these tools from being used for harm as well. And that goes for fake news, for foreign interference in elections and hate speech, as well as developers and data privacy. We didn't take a broad enough view of our responsibility, and that was a big mistake. And it was my mistake, and I'm sorry. I started Facebook, I run it, and I'm responsible for what happens here.
Over the years, Facebook developed a dark side. It began sharing user data illegally, fighting with countries over user privacy. It began killing competition, acquiring popular apps like Instagram and WhatsApp. At one point, Facebook was live streaming terror, silencing free speech, and peddling hate for profit. So stakeholders began unfriending Facebook. The year 2020 was the first time Facebook saw an exodus of major advertisers. More than 500 companies boycotted the platform. They demanded that Facebook do more to address racism and hate speech. As we speak, Facebook's ad income has plunged once again. There's a war in Ukraine, there is global inflation, and companies are not willing to splurge on online ads. Facebook, which relies on ads for 97% of its revenue, is taking the hit. The result is this: Zuckerberg's accounts are bleeding. But ads are just one part of the story. Mark Zuckerberg holds around 16% of Meta shares. His image and fortune are dependent on Facebook. The social media platform made him a household name. Facebook's popularity built Zuckerberg's fortune. It paid for his $7 million California estate, his $100 million Hawaii property, $150 million luxury yacht, swanky private jet rides, and his collection of custom-made Brunello Cucinelli grey shirts, each costing about $400. In December 2021, Meta reported a decline in profit. Its forecast for the first quarter of 2022 was lower than expected. Shareholders began panic selling. Facebook lost $300 billion in investor wealth in a day. And this was on the 3rd day of February of 2022. By then, Facebook had already lost users. The platform closed 2021 with less than 2 billion active users, as against 1.93 billion earlier. For a business that uses users as products, even one less login reflects strongly on the logbook. Today, a lot of these users have begun spending more time on other apps like Instagram. But in this in-house migration, it does not matter to Meta. What ticks it off is TikTok. The app's user base has exploded over the years. TikTok registered its billionth user in 2021. That's just after 4 years after its global launch. It had taken Facebook and Instagram double the time. WhatsApp had taken 7 years to land its billionth user. Facebook is seeing its biggest decline among users aged 18 to 25. The same age group had flocked to Facebook in the early 2000s. Youngsters had taught their parents and grandparents how to create Facebook accounts and profiles, how to add friends. But today's youth finds Facebook boring. They've moved to quote-unquote cooler apps. If you look closely, this story, the story of Zuckerberg's rise and decline, has come full circle. It's like one of those social media trends. One day everybody's talking about it. A few days later, everyone's moved on to the next trend. Facebook's popularity, of course, lasts more than a few days. It lasted over a decade. The platform was opened to everyone in the year 2006. 4 years later, the blockbuster biopic on Zuckerberg was released. Ever since, his story has been dictated by the ups and downs of Facebook. Currently, Facebook's market cap is under $475 billion. And Zuckerberg's wealth is down to $76 billion. He has lost nearly $50 billion in the first 4 months of this year. No other billionaire in the top 20 list has come even close to suffering such a fall. You can blame this on the fall of Facebook's profits, its policies, Zuckerberg's leadership. He rebranded Facebook when the world clearly needed a change that went beyond the name. People wanted a change in the privacy policy. They needed trust, credibility, honesty, transparency, and Facebook failed to deliver. As Facebook fell from grace, so did its face, Mark Zuckerberg. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.